It's interesting. Okay, welcome everyone to our brand new series, the Versus series. We haven't figured out a name for it yet. So today we're going to start off with a big topic, Superman versus Darth Vader. And we're going to go through different sorts of alternate scenarios, how one could win over the other, and we're just going to nerd out to it. So Josh, welcome to the, well, I guess you're part of it, so.
Well, I'm happy. Welcome. Yeah, but either way, I'm happy to be here. And this is fun, man. I'm excited to do this. This is kind of a different thing for you and I, but I think with our natural flow, I think it's gonna be really, really fun. And I think this is a cool one to sort of start. Really, a light side character and a dark side character in a lot of ways here. You know what I mean?
Both equally strong, I guess, in their own universes.
Yeah.
But when put together, we're gonna find out.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because Darth Vader he does not lose in Star Wars. That's the thing. When he shows up, he does not lose. And it's a similar thing for Superman. Superman has been beaten in the comics before, technically, but he kind of always either comes back and, wins or whatnot. So, yeah, very much the two kind of anchors in their respective, universe.
Yeah, we could almost say, plot armor defends both of them.
Oh, yeah.
Quite often. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's see. In an alternate universe, basically, where Vader and Superman would meet, let's say Vader was going to, I don't know, he was going to a planet to identify somebody, maybe something to do with Padme again, because we know that's the only thing that really pulls on his heartstrings. And all of a sudden, Superman gets in his way and shows up. How do you think the battle would go down? What powers do you think Superman would use? What powers do you think Vader would use? Let's start from the top. So, Superman has a ton of different powers, and I'm looking it up right now. A few of them, he's got super strength, speed, super leaping. He's got flight, super senses. He's got invulnerability, vision, so he can see through walls. You can see where Vader is. Hearing, so he could probably hear Vader's breathing, like from anywhere.
Yeah.
Let alone his mechanical parts moving. He's got super breath, mental powers, super ventriloquism, so he can throw his voice, super hypnotism, stamina, healing factor, memory wipe, other powers, just keeps going.
Vader, of course, has the power of the Force. He has Force valor. He has telekinesis. He has the ability to do Force push. He has Force wave. He has Force repulse, which is sort of like just like a blast back in all directions. Force pull. Force flight, which is kind of like a levitation sort of thing. Force choke. Force grip. Force stasis. Force crush. Force throw. He can obviously throw his saber and use the Force with his saber. He can Force jump, use a barrier. Force maelstrom is a very interesting possibility. And then as well as having abilities like telepathy, possibly trying to get inside Superman's head, use his own Force rage or something to that effect. And also very, very interesting, I think, the precognition. His ability to sense things with the Force should be able to help him at least come onto some kind of an even playing field with Cal, who is naturally, I think, will just be much, much faster than him. So that's just a few of what Vader's got going on.
I agree. And that's the thing. So with Cal using his speed, you know that Vader isn't able to move much because of his cybernetic limbs now. So Cal's going to probably use that to his advantage, and he's going to use his speed to dance around him and fly around him, where Vader's going to be just kind of rigid and not being able to move much. So he might use that Force stasis in that sense to try to slow his opponent down.
I don't see him just immediately trying to do any kind of crazy limit breaking ability right away. Superman usually is known for kind of leaving his guard down because he kind of lives in a world where nobody can really touch him, right? So, depending on how Vader was sensing the intention of Clark or Cal, it could really start the fight off one of two ways. And I think the stasis could get locked on to Cal potentially before any super speed or anything like that was issued.
Vader can block blaster bolts. Okay.
Yeah.
So blaster bolts, I'm looking on Google, it says around 35 meters per second. But I feel like even with blaster bolts, because they're coming in such a succession, Vader's able to see them before it happens. And this is the ability of a Jedi.
Yeah.
The ability of a Sith, I suppose.
Yeah.
So with that, I think no matter how fast Cal is moving, Vader would be able to see him before he makes that movement. He'd be able to feel his mind, even if it's super fast. Now, of course, it is very fast, but Vader's a pretty powerful guy, and he's pretty in tune with the Force. So I think he'd be able to sense it in some sort of way and at least be prepared for it.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. I could see Vader at definitely at the beginning of the fight getting an advantage, because I mean, he's just a trained Sith, and he's just like an unleashed, especially if he knew conflict was coming. What do you think, as far as from the Force, from the perspective of the Force, what would Anakin or Vader sense coming off of Superman? Because, you know, Superman doesn't use any Force powers, but if life is the Force and everything that's living has the Force, then I would assume Kal-El would be like kind of abundant with light side energy in some way, right?
Yeah.
So maybe Vader senses that right away, and at the beginning of the fight, he's in more of an antagonistic mode than Superman. You know what I mean? And so like he could potentially get the jump on him and use that, you know, Force crush or Force stasis and sort of hold Superman down. But what would Vader do if, when Superman was being held, if Superman started to use either his frost breath or his like laser beams? Because that's a classic Superman thing, is when he is you know, sort of pushed up against the wall, is when he would move forward with one of his sort of other abilities. Mainly like the laser eyes or the frost breath.
So Vader has the ability to create a force field, a force bubble in front of him. So I feel like he would just probably do that. And the thing with the breath, and I think the thing with the laser eyes, it's like a blaster bolt.
Right.
He could probably deflect that with his lightsaber, you know, just like Mace Windu did with the lighting with Palpatine. Or he would just, once again, put up a sort of a bubble. But also, his gloves had a sort of a repellent to blaster bolt. That's why in Empire Strikes Back, we see him do that with the blaster bolt when Han was shooting him. So it wasn't like he wasn't using like Kylo Ren's force power or anything. His gloves just had this ability to absorb or repel blaster fire. So
dang, okay, yeah.
That being said, you know, Superman's laser eyes are probably more powerful than blaster bolts, you know, but
I can see him like, so like imagine sort of a scenario where Vader's like holding him down, you know, and then like Cal's like surprised, but then he like blasts at him, and then Vader just holds up the saber and is like
saber, yeah.
But do you think at that point then, because then it becomes sort of more of a struggle of wills, right? And, you know, I mean, Vader has just like an indomitable will, but I don't know, like, I think it's interesting because this is sort of a part of Superman's character as well, right? That like when he digs deep, there's almost like no limit actually to his abilities. In fact, you know, some people would argue that the limits of Superman's powers are merely the limits of what he is willing to try, because, you know, he doesn't want to like hurt people. Like there's this great scene it's in the comics, but it's also in one of the animated movies where he's letting loose on Darkseid, and he talks about how he lives in like a world of cardboard, and he walks around so delicately because he never wants to like break anything. And like, but with Darkseid, he can finally like unload, and it's crazy, dude. Like just crack, you know, like just epic, like, you know, hits. The thing is, though, to your point, Vader cannot get hit with one of those. Obviously, he knows his body's, you know, he knows that his body's vulnerable, so he wouldn't. Right. So what do you think about the willpower? Yeah,
I think the willpower, you have a point, but the problem is that once Vader is backed into a corner, and let's say his will is broken, all it takes is for him to remember something about his past, and all of a sudden he's just like the Hulk, who just keeps getting more powerful the angrier he gets.
Yeah.
So it's interesting in that sense, because if Cal mentions something about Padme or something about Vader's mom, Anakin's mom, or something remotely reminds him about something to do with his past as Anakin, it would just all happen all over again, and he would be unbelievably powerful. Vader can sense where Superman is. Superman can hear, sense, and see where Vader is, because he can see through walls and he has X-ray vision and everything. So he'd probably be able to see that, okay, Vader's got a destroyed body. He probably sees that his lungs are absolutely collapsible very easily.
Yeah.
So he could do anything like set a room on fire or something like that, and Vader would have a hard time possibly breathing if he does something to his control box.
Sure.
He could just, you know, shoot some electricity from some object. I don't know. I know he doesn't have that power, but he could mimic it in some way, perhaps. Maybe, you know, bust open some electrical wiring with his laser eyes and just throw it at, I don't know, you know, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple. And that's the problem with Vader. He's so fragile, but yet at the same time, he's powerful in his fragile state.
Yeah. It is quite intense. And I think that it kind of would depend maybe on why exactly are they fighting, right? So like, I think to your point, if Cal stands between, like, let's say that there's some magical one above all being that's setting this up, right? And that being has said to Vader, if you beat this dude, you literally will get Padme back. It's gonna be really hard to root against Vader. You know what I mean? And so this kind of brings me to an interesting question for you is, if Clark sensed the good in Vader, because this is a very Superman thing, and he's a lot like, you know, his own son in that way, right? So what if Clark decided to try to end the fight, or at least throw Vader off by appealing to like his good side, right? Like, because that's a very Superman thing. So like, basically he would be like, look, like, I don't know what you're here, but clearly, you know, you've had a rough life. I can feel the pain, you know, in you. I don't want to be your enemy. Like, what's going on? How can I help you? Do you think that would have any effect? Would Vader drop his guard at all?
No, not at all. Not
at
all.
He's like, I don't know you, bro.
Sure, I'd be like, yeah, like, I don't know you. What do you think? You're better than me? The dark side is all I need, blah, blah, blah.
That's true.
Like,
yeah, he probably would be like,
yeah.
yeah. You know, it's funny because he's a lot like Luke in that way. You know what I mean? Like,
hard-headed.
Well, no, Clark and Luke share that similarity where, you know, Superman could have ended Lex Luthor a long time ago. You know what I mean? But he doesn't, because he chooses to see the good in him despite everything, you know, and he chooses to see the good in humanity despite everything. You know what I mean? So it's in a similar way, he's like Luke, right? Where he's got all this power, but ultimately he's grounded in his like love. That's kind of what his real power is. You know what I mean? With Luke, it's like love, and similarly with Superman. I just didn't know if you thought maybe he could weaken him or get Vader to, you know.
I don't think that would work on Vader. I think Vader would absolutely just use that to get more angry.
Probably, yeah.
And it would just work in his favor in some sort of sense.
Yeah.
If Vader used Force Choke on Superman, what do you think would happen? Do you think his trachea would be able to actually get crushed?
I don't think so. Like that's what I can't. I mean, he's the Man of Steel, right?
But he did do that in the Superman movie to Zod. He cracked his neck. He just did it with his arms.
Yep, he did. He broke his neck. Yeah.
So why couldn't the Force do that with all of Vader's power?
I think Vader could hold him, and I think Vader could potentially restrict his breathing, but I just don't think he would actually be able to suffocate him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think Superman would be able to control his trachea and push back.
Right.
Yeah,
or like
eventually.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it works for a while, and then Cal, like right at the end, is like, yeah, and just like it just breaks through it, and then he's like, and then it's like the frozen air, and Vader's like, you know.
Yeah.
This I think would be a much more interesting stylistic fight, though, to see these two actually go at it, because I do think it would come to this moment where, like, essentially Vader is just holding him down or whatever and trying to kill him, right? And then the question would be, well, who's going to sort of run out of stamina first? Because Vader, the suit eventually does need, you know, maintenance and repair and things of that nature. Cal or Clark would need sustenance, but I feel as though he has a much longer battery than Vader does. You know what I mean? For that energy. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think his suit makes him superhuman, even though it is debilitating a bit. I think it makes him superhuman, as well as the fact that you have to realize he has the Force,
right,
which can allow you to go forever. But also, when it comes to pain, let's say Cal's trying to, you know, induce a lot of pain into him, break this, break that, cut this off. With his suit, he's fed tons of painkillers. every moment, because the suit
Yeah.
itself is extremely painful, and
Right.
what his body has gone through is painful. So he doesn't feel anything. Also, his nerve endings have been dulled so that he doesn't feel pain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. He's not going down like that. But I'm just saying, like, think about this. The suit eventually is gonna run out of power. You know what I mean? And I just don't think I don't think the suit can last longer than just organic Superman. You know what I mean?
but the Force can.
The Force absolutely can, but isn't Anakin's ability to use the Force sort of diminished because of the suit? Like the suit, I think like without the suit, like Anakin would have been like God tier, but like because of the suit,
Yes.
it limits his ability to sustain, I think. So I think he would drain out.
I think you're right, man. I think he would get absolutely creamed by Superman eventually in the end.
Eventually, right?
You know, they both kind of have a ticking pacemaker, so to speak. You know, Superman with the sun or lack
Right.
thereof, and then
Yep.
Vader with his suit and all of his problems and disabilities that he has with that. But I think Vader's is more limited. And while he is perhaps stronger when it comes to the Force, of course, I just don't think all of that would be able to take all of the damage that Superman would give him. Now, if this were Anakin in full power without the suit,
Yeah.
bit of a different story.
Yeah.
But even then, that would be difficult.
Even then, it would be difficult, but definitely more
Realistic.
yeah, definitely more feasible, because I think at the end of the day, it is sort of just the limitations of it's the fact that Vader cannot technically he cannot end the fight quickly, if at all, because he just probably doesn't understand how to do that with this guy, right?
Look, Superman will understand. Look, the suit is what's keeping him alive.
Right.
Destroy the suit,
He'll
you
see it.
destroy the man.
Yeah, he'll see it in the X-ray vision.
Yeah,
He'll
like
understand
Predator,
it.
you can just see like,
Yeah.
okay, the problems with this guy and that guy, that guy. He'll see that his lungs are messed up, his heart's messed up. He can't see without the mask. Like he can't even speak. He's just a stump. You know,
Yeah.
he's a
Or he'll
machine.
probably just wait him out.
He's a cyborg.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
would probably just wait it out, if anything, which is a really Superman thing to do, actually. Just kind of
Very
let him
patient.
tear out.
That being said, with the suit, Vader's suit is actually made of Durasteel and Mandalorian iron infused fibers.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, so infused fabric in his suit and everything like that. So, and this is, mind you, very Legends material here, but that being said, the suit can take a beating.
Yeah.
A beating from Superman? Maybe not.
Right. But again, it's not as though Superman's going to go all out on him. He just doesn't do that. So will the suit stand up to
I think we're looking at like Injustice Superman.
Oh, well, then that would be bad, dude. I mean, if he gets Clark that rocked, I mean, yeah, that's going to be tough. But okay, let's think about this though. What about the suit with some force barrier added? Because I think Clark could go right through a force barrier, but it would at least take some of the edge off of it, right? But imagine like, you know, Vader has that force barrier and he's just holding it, but it's still kind of getting through and it's like crunching, but he's like holding his will.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that he could actually hold up. I think he could hold up very well because he's Vader, of course, but he wouldn't be able to sustain it. That's the only thing.
That's the
you
thing.
know,
He'd be able to hold it for a bit, and then Superman would just keep going relentlessly, and eventually, you know, his servos would give up in his cybernetics, and
it would really depend. I mean, depending on what's in the environment, Vader could. I mean, like, you know, I think maybe holding him in force stasis, like under some lava, that would perhaps do some damage, but it is really hard to say because, I mean, you know, Superman has just gone through so many different crazy things and come out unscathed. It's hard to imagine doing sort of permanent damage to him. To be fair, though, one of the times he dies, it is literally just that. It's like when Doomsday is kind of like his equal in strength, and they just literally they kill each other kind of because they expend all of their energy trying to kill each other, but also like they're giving it their all. So if Vader could somehow, with again maybe without the suit and, you know, have just pure the force energy or something crazy like that, You know, he could potentially do enough damage to rock Superman. So I think Superman can be rocked.
He would rock him for sure. Kill him.
Mm.
You might need a little something, which we'll have to
Yeah.
talk about in the next
Right.
video about it. So Superman gets this one, I
Yep.
suppose. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And these will keep getting better and better, more interesting and more fluid. And eventually we'd like to animate these. That would be fun. So
Yeah.
with our voiceovers and go from there. So let us know in the comments who you want to verse each other next. We've got Batman versus Boba, Luke versus Captain America, and Palpatine versus Thor in terms of lightning power. So let us know who you want to fight next, and we'll try to do our best and nerd out on it. So we'll catch you later. Thank you for watching. See you then.